Chris Dawson, editor of Tamebay, here at Retail Without Borders in London, and I'm here with David Swift from TradeMe, a marketplace from the other side of the world. So tell me about TradeMe.
Yeah, so as you say, TradeMe is New Zealand's most popular online shopping destination. And it's fair to say New Zealand is a fair way from the UK. I mean, it's mathematically as far as it's as possible to get. But TradeMe is almost an online phenomenon down there. It's not just the number one marketplace in the country. It's also the number one place to buy a house or a car, number two place to find a job. I mean, you could even find your next partner on TradeMe should you want. So it's one digital membership for your entire digital life. As a marketplace, we have continued to grow. We have recently sort of expanded our international sellers program, and that's why I'm here today to talk to UK retailers who are potentially interested in expanding cross-border.
So I think that's the first point you said. I think is really interesting. That it's not just a marketplace; it's where people run their entire digital life, which is probably a bit different to what people are used to in the UK and Europe. But TradeMe really is ingrained in everyone's lives, and I understand that's actually good for retailers because if someone buys something and it's not quite right, they're probably just as likely to sell it on TradeMe as they'll return it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reach of TradeMe is phenomenal. There's 4.9 million people currently living in New Zealand, and we've got 4.3 million member accounts.
So probably, if you're under 18, you might not have an account. But
you've got to be, everybody's there. Nearly 1 million of those people are visitors daily. So it's a really popular online destination. In terms of sort of shipping goods and returns over there, and because people in New Zealand are aware that we're a small Pacific Island nation on the other side of the world, the lead times are a bit longer than what a lot of retailers probably expect it to be. So if they can get goods to New Zealand within 10 working days, then Kiwi consumers are more than happy to wait that kind of lead time. And as you say, returns are really low on TradeMe. So given the domestic culture is you can't exchange goods for change of thought, change of mind, and then we see a really low return rate with international merchants selling on the platform.
So the local culture spills out onto the international.
Absolutely.
And what have you seen that works really well from the perspective of either the type of retail or the category of products that work from the UK and Europe selling?
So it sounds quite cliched that we're actually looking for products right across the spectrum. But the reason is domestic supply in New Zealand is really quite limited. You can pretty much pick any vertical you want, and there'll only be sort of 2 or 3 major players. Once you get outside of the main geographical areas, Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch, it's even worse. But in terms of real areas where there's currently sort of demand would be home and living, clothing and fashion, sports, toys and games, and consumer electronics.
And because of, as you say, the limited local supply, they're really not worried about the sort of 10-day delivery?
No, not at all. The UK is now our most populated international retailers. We've got more retailers coming from the UK than any other international destination. And it's because they can offer an increased range of goods at a competitive price. And you've also got things like the reverse seasonality. So allegedly we're coming in spring and summer in the UK, although I'm not sure it feels like it. And obviously autumn, winter in New Zealand. So retailers can provide goods into New Zealand, in season that might be coming out of season in the domestic market, which means that they can maintain margins down there.
So things like sporting goods, it's time for snow sports out there, whereas in the summer, well, hopefully it's beach games.
Absolutely.
For the UK. So I think that's really interesting, that ability to sell your out of season stock, especially if it is seasonal, as in with the seasons. And so when someone's thinking about selling on TradeMe, what do they need to know? I mean, shipping you want within 10 days, but how do payments work? What are the most popular forms for shipping? Is it kind of Royal Mail type services or courier services? Where do you see?
So in terms of, I'll take that in 2 parts. In terms of getting set up, New Zealand has recently just retained its crown as the easiest country in the world to do business. So nice and straightforward, which is what a lot of retailers want to hear. We asked you to complete an international seller checklist, and this just allows our trust and safety team to come back to you with recommendations around any legality that you might fall under selling cross-border into New Zealand. We ask for a test delivery so that we can verify that you can ship the goods to the consumer within that 10 working day expectation. And then from there, it's a fully supported integration. So we have a launch specialist team who work alongside you to make sure that we're optimizing your store to make sure that ROI is where you want it to be. In terms of payments, multiple options again available to you. So some retailers just choose to have us transfer funds directly to their UK account, which we can do. We'll swallow the international remittance fee for that. A lot of firms are now actually having, as you've seen here with Payoneer and World First, these international accounts.
Yeah.
And that just allows companies to sort of control when they're actually exchanging the rate back, so to make sure, again, that they're maximising their return from selling into New Zealand. But again, all pretty straightforward.
So either you can do it or another company can do it for them. There doesn't sound too many barriers to doing it. So what would be the most compelling reason for selling to New Zealand? I'm thinking, obviously the language is the same,
Yep.
at least for the UK, if not the rest of Europe. Payments are easy. Shipping, 20 years ago, it would have been quite difficult. And nowadays, shipping is relatively easy. Are there any other barriers that I need to be aware of?
Not really. As you say, sort of, the e-commerce is growing at such a rate now that people are looking to facilitate those channels for retailers who are looking at new markets. As an English-speaking market, you don't have that language problem there. You've got that reverse seasonality that you can take advantage of, and that supply gap. So even when looking at a potentially bigger markets, because admittedly, there are only so many people in the country, people are looking to international merchants to fill that because they want that greater range. So it's an active market. It's a one-stop shop. It's a really easy solution if you're looking for incremental growth.
So it sounds like a bit of a no-brainer. Now, I know the guys here at Retail Without Borders, Pentagon, can help people get set up. But for those that want to come to you direct, how would they approach TradeMe to say, let's get started?
So probably the easiest thing to do is they can contact me directly. My email is david.swift@trademe.co.nz. And from there we can just get that process started. I can send them the international seller checklist and we can just see if it's going to be a good fit.
So it sounds like a really easy no-brainer. If you'd like to increase your international sales to New Zealand, same language, easy payments, relatively easy shipping, drop David an email and get started.
We'd love to see you there.
David, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Chris.